How are they going to measure you on this? And he said, well, it'll be measured by how much people are paying at the grocery store. Well, I guess you've completely failed, Mr. Carney.
Mark Carney made a lot of promises during his campaign to become Prime Minister. However, it seems that as each of those promises flies against the government chopping block, these bold proclamations that served to woo the swing voters over to the Liberals resulted in being just an insult to the average Canadian. His middle-class tax cut is no exception, unfortunately.
Let's take a look. Average family to save $280 per year from Liberal tax cut. Parliamentary Budget Office. A single senior in the first income bracket would get an average of $50 back next year.
Ottawa. The average Canadian family will save $280 on their taxes next year from the Liberal government's planned income tax cut, the Parliamentary Budget Officer said in an analysis released on Wednesday. But some seniors and single Canadians are expected to save less, prompting criticism from Conservatives who argue the tax cut doesn't go far enough. The Liberal proposal would drop the tax rate to 14.5% from 15% on the first $57,375 of Canadians' taxable income this year, and down to 14% the next year. The promise was a pillar of the Liberal campaign during the spring federal election. At the time, Prime Minister Mark Carney's plan pitched annual savings of up to $825 per dual income family. When the legislation was tabled through a Ways and Means motion late last month, Finance Canada projected a maximum tax savings of $840 per couple. Yves Giroux, the Parliamentary Budget Officer, said Wednesday that the average family likely won't get that much back. On a per-person basis, the average tax filer is estimated to save $90 on their 2025 income taxes because the tax cut only takes effect on July 1st. The PBO expects that average will rise to $190 in savings next year. The PBO says a two-income couple in the second income bracket with a child would be expected to get the most back, $750 in average savings next year. For the average high-earning single Canadian with no children in the top tax bracket, the PBO said the typical savings would be roughly $350 annually. On the other end of the spectrum, a single senior in the first income bracket would get an average of $50 back next year. A single parent in the same tax bracket would save an average of $140. The PBO noted that the lower an individual's average income is, the less they can expect to save from a reduction in the first income tax bracket on a relative basis. Many low-income individuals also have existing tax credits to reduce their taxable income. The official opposition accused Carney of tinkering, quote, on the margins to save Canadians mere cents a day, end quote. The Conservatives promised a steeper income tax cut of 2.25 percentage points during the election campaign, though that plan would have phased the reduction in over 4 years. The Canadian Press reached out to Finance Minister François-Philippe Champagne for a comment, but has not yet received a response.
Now, just so we're showing that all's fair in love and taxes, let's go back to what Mark Carney said on March 23rd, 2025.
What Canadians want, they want change, but not just any type of change. They want positive change, new positive leadership that helps us build together. They want leadership that stands up for Canada. That's right. And you know what? Part of standing up for Canada, part of making Canada strong, starts with making life affordable again. And that's why this morning I announce that a new Liberal government will deliver a middle-class tax cut that will save families up to $825 a year.
$825.
Up to be fair, he did say up to. And I suppose $50 is up to $850, isn't it?
Well, technically $1 is up to $825.
And that's my point.
So it's pretty dang insulting, I gotta say. Many of you have worked at jobs, and many of you still work at jobs where you may get raises on a yearly basis. And I've worked at some jobs where they offered a 0.3% raise. And when that's offered to you, you look back at your employer and you're just like, why are you bothering? Literally, why are you bothering? That's essentially going to give me pennies a month. Whoop-de-doo. And then some people say, well, it's better than nothing. I don't know. Because at least if they're offering me nothing, then they're at least being honest about giving me nothing versus a 0.3% raise, which is, well, we're giving you something.
Well, and that's what this government is doing. They promised up to $825 per couple. And now we find out that the average is, just over $200?
Depends on who you're talking to, right? It says some of the average families are going to get $140, $190, and seniors are going to get $50. $50.
That's less than $5 a month.
Right. And that's going to be what, 25, 30 cents a day?
Well, you can barely buy a coffee for $5 a month these days.
You can't even get a candy anymore for 25 cents. It's insane. So this is what they were crowing about. Remember in question period, in the first couple of weeks of Parliament, they were crowing about this. And they were going at the Conservatives. Well, you need to support a middle-class tax cut. Wow.
And just to put the numbers a little bit more into perspective, in this year's 2025 food report, which was done by the Dalhousie University, they had said that the average family is going to be spending $801.56 extra this year compared to last year on groceries because of inflation. So this tax cut is not even going to cover that difference in food prices from last year. And this is for an average family of 4, 2 adults, 2 children.
So even the family at the highest end of the tax bracket, they are not going to recoup that in this tax cut.
So this tax cut is not even enough for Canadians to keep up with their grocery bill.
Now let's go back to what Mark Carney said when they were asking him, how are they going to measure you on this? And he said, well, it'll be measured by how much people are paying at the grocery store. Well, I guess you've completely failed, Mr. Carney, before this piece of legislation has even gone into effect, because the average person, let's just say family, average couple, the average couple is not getting back $801. They're getting about a quarter of that back. So when they go to the grocery store, yeah, you failed them by about 75% of what they actually needed in order to actually make those groceries more affordable. This just goes to show that what Mark Carney is promising is nowhere near what we're actually seeing. So if he can't even get the small things right, folks, if he can't even get this $825 tax cut right, what does this mean for his big pieces of legislation? The quote-unquote projects of national interest that he has no list of because he's waiting for everybody else to tell him what to do. What does this mean for the rest of his government?
Well, fortunately, we know the answer to the Bill C-5 question, which is the projects of national interest, and you'll have to wait till our next video to get the answer.